Adam Ronis from RotoExperts.com here with your fantasy football video. Week 7 waiver wire pickups. Got my little sheet here, kind of looking at some guys that I'm picking up and thinking about in my leagues. And when you look at quarterback, Matt Castle this week has a nice matchup. I didn't like what I saw from him at all the first few weeks. He wasn't reading the field well at all. But last week, he had a great matchup against the Texans, and he exploited them, throwing for 3 touchdowns. This week, next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team getting shredded by the pass. So if you have issues at quarterback, need a bye week fill-in, Castle is certainly a good option this week. Another quarterback I'm looking at, Josh Freeman from Tampa Bay. Didn't have a great game this past week, but he has a nice matchup this week against the Redskins. I wouldn't play him against more established quarterbacks, but if you need a bye week fill-in, you have an injury, or you're in a 2-quarterback league, I think he's a good play this week against the Redskins. Moving on to the running backs, James Starks from the Green Bay Packers. He hasn't played yet in a game. He hasn't suited up since 2009, but look, let's be honest. The issues at running back for the Packers are a problem. They're not getting any production, and Starks might be a guy who emerges here in a couple of weeks. I think you can pick him up, put him on your bench. He's big, he's physical, and they raved about him in the preseason. He was on the PUP list to start the year with the hamstring injury, but he is back practicing this week. Also at running back, I think you need to take a look at Chris Ivory, coming off a huge game this past week, over 150 yards rushing, and Pierre Thomas is still out. Reggie Bush might need another week before he returns, and even if it's just a 1-week fill-in, he certainly can help you this week against the Cleveland Browns. And even when Bush and Thomas return, Ivory certainly can still get goal line carries. They did that last year with Mike Bell, and Ivory could fill that need. So there might even be some long-term value there with him. Another running back I'll take a look at, Danny Woodhead. In a PPR league, I think he'd certainly help out. He had 16 touches this past week. He looked very good, and I think he could play the role of Kevin Falk moving forward. If you're looking ahead, we still don't know the extent of the Joseph Adai injury, so Donald Brown and Mike Hart could be guys that have value in a couple weeks. Moving on to wide receiver, Denario Alexander from the Rams. And yes, you guys are like, who is that? Look, it's certainly a shock. He was an undrafted free agent. He led the nation in receiving last year at Missouri, but he's had major issues with his knee. The Rams signed him with all the injuries to the practice squad. Then they signed him to a 4-year contract. That is very telling. He worked with the first team in practice this week, then went out, had 4 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. A lot of upside here, some risk with the injuries, but I would absolutely pick him up and give him a chance in your lineup because he might be able to produce with Sam Bradford certainly playing well at quarterback for the Rams. Someone else you also need to take a look at, and we've been talking about him for a week, so he should be on your roster if you listen to this. Deion Butler from the Seahawks emerged this past week, 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. The Seahawks offense has more balance now with Marshawn Lynch, and when Hasselbeck gets time, he certainly gets the job done, so he should be added to your rosters. Patrick Creighton this week, good start. Malcolm Floyd, unlikely to play with the hamstring injury, but we all know how good Phillip Rivers is. It doesn't matter who his receivers are, he finds a way to get the job done. Creighton coming off a game, 6 catches, 117 yards, never really got the opportunity in Dallas. Nice short-term fill-in here. Tight end, there are so many guys. I'm still shocked in a lot of leagues at some of the tight ends available. Owen Daniels might still be out there. If he is, pick him up. 5 catches for 79 yards. Looks a lot better coming off that ACL injury. Some teams might have given up on him and dropped him. So if he's there, pick him up. Heath Miller might still be there. I don't need to tell you what Ben Roethlisberger's return does for him. Ben Watson is another guy to look out for. Josh Cribbs might be out. Mohamed Massaquoi might be out. Ben Watson has had 5-6 catches consistently, and not a lot of people are talking about him. And also at tight end, if Chris Cooley misses time with a concussion, Fred Davis becomes a good pickup. Last year we saw him get a lot of looks near the goal line, and McNabb doesn't have many weapons to throw to, so Davis could emerge here as a viable play at the tight end position. With your Week 7 look at the waiver wire, Adam Ronis from RotoExperts.com. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.